Welcome to Huber Hot Rods and Fabrication. Today we're going to be cutting the inner fender supports out of the fenders because they are huge and they weigh a ton. These bolts are completely rusted and I am going to just cut them off with a grinding wheel because they're square nuts. This is not fun to deal with. So I'm going to set up the camera and we're going to get to it. All right, we got the inner fenders removed from both fenders. As you can see in the time lapse, now it's time to go to town on it with a 4.5-inch grinder and wire wheel. Break up all this loose paint and scaly rust on both sides of the fender. I need to assess where all the rust spots are, kind of get a better feel for where all the dents are and stuff on this fender, get a little bit more familiar with it. So let's get after it. Oh no, not the patina. So we got rid of all of the patina on this, good amount of the paint, just to be able to assess what's going on with this fender. You can see that this thing's had a really rough life. We're going to give it a better life now. It has dents all along the outer side of this fender here. I noticed the same thing on the other driver's side fender. We're going to get that cleaned up next. I'm not going to bore you with sitting through another time-lapse video on me just cleaning up a nasty fender. I went ahead and I coated this with WD-40 just to kind of like stop it from rusting more, clean all of the excess rust and all of that stuff off. And man, these sure are pretty fenders. They have this really cool body line coming down here, this peak, and then the peak coming down the headlight ring too. And then the grill all comes to a nice peak in the front. Just really beautiful points on this thing, and it's really really exciting to see it start to kind of clean up and come together. So I'm gonna go ahead and get the other fender cleaned up, and then we'll go from there. Now that I've got both fenders cleaned up, we are gonna move over to Mr. Noisemaker. We've got a lot of dents in here and we're going to reshape it. I could do it with a hammer and dolly, but I have a handheld planishing hammer that I have mounted to the wall. We're going to change out the dies and we're going to get this all set up, and we're going to use the handheld planishing hammer to reshape a lot of these dents and get a lot of these dents out quicker. All right, let's set it up and have a look. So after a really short amount of time on the planishing hammer, A lot of the dents that were along this side came out. We're not looking for perfect here. I am just looking for close enough for right now. This was just an initial planish on there. There was a huge crease right along here that came out. Still got a little bit of hammer and dolly work in this corner and along that seam. I'm going to use a pick to get in there. There's a pretty nasty crease right there that is starting to come out really nice. We'll continue to work that out. A little bit of a low spot right in here, but other than that, this driver's side fender is looking really good so far. I just have some repairs to do on the front. There's a big rust hole there, a little rust hole just next to it. There's a reinforcement plate on the back side of it. That's where the bumper comes through. You can see a little pinhole right there at the edge of the fender there, and then this big split. It's not really that big, but we are going to take care of all of that next. So I got that crack all welded up, metal finished for the most part. There's some pinholes in there still a little bit. I'm gonna go back over it once I fire it back up and we take care of this. There's rusty metal on one side, on the inside it's still really rusty. I'm getting some of that coming through. That crack was kind of nasty. I couldn't really clean it out that well. Excuses, that's all I got is excuses on why I have porosity in my welds. So we're going to move on to this next one. That's going to take some metal shaping. Let's take a closer look real quick and figure out how I'm going to do this. You can see there's a hole there and it comes back around to the edge there. So we're going to have to make a filler piece that wraps around there. It is kind of a compound curve, if you can tell. Wraps down that way and this way. Can't just take a little piece and bend it around there. We're gonna have to do some shaping. So let's start with a piece template, and we will cut it out in sheet metal and then go to a T-dolly and start from there. All right, as you've seen in the time lapse, we went through and we templated. I showed you templating on videos before. It's pretty easy. Templated and then started making the piece. And now we are to final fitment of the piece. I just shrunk the back edge in the shrinker stretcher, and we're gonna test fit it. That is fitting really nice now. Now, I have that pencil mark as my reference of where this goes every time. So I'm off a little bit on it, but that's okay because it's still gonna cover this. I like the shape. I like where everything's at. I'm gonna roll with the actual piece instead of try to adjust it and modify it to the template. I like it. So we're gonna keep moving forward. The next step is to move, to fit this. I wanna shrink this back edge a little bit more, get these radiuses tighter, and then we'll scribe this piece and we will cut it out. All right, we got this here patch fitting really nice. No, seriously, this patch is fitting awesome. The rest of this hammer and dolly work in place. So we're gonna go ahead and clamp it. Nice and secure. And this scribe line is going to now be my cut line. We're going to get this set up in time lapse and get my cut-off wheel, and we're going to get to cutting. Beautiful. Okay, I've got that patch panel all welded in and metal finished. Yeah, we're just getting a lot of porosity, and I will go back and fix all of that. Pretty windy out, I got the door open. So next is this spot. Once we get this spot, then we've got the front of the fender all finished, and we can work on the back. So let's start templating. All right, I'm gonna try and do a quick video on templating again. Get my little template paper. Just getting a good idea here on how all of this is going to look. Wrap that around there. What you see on that outer perimeter is what I'm thinking here is what is going to be my patch panel, because behind that is a reinforcement plate, and that reinforcement plate comes to about here inside, from here to here inside, and I want to be just on the outside of that, this outer edge, so I can planish it still. Hope that makes sense. I'm liking it so far. Okay, that definitely will take care of our problem. We see that we're going to be in there. We're going to clean this edge up. This is spot welded to that inner surface. We're going to cut this out. We'll weld through primer the inside. So let's go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and get that cut out for now. And we'll save this piece here as our template. Goes just like that. All right, we've got that piece made. Now this is our first check. Very, very close. Yes, very close. We need to roll this just a little bit more. There's a radius here. This is flat. There's a radius. We need to put a little radius in it. So we'll just do that by hand. It's 18 gauge. We can move it pretty easily. Oh, that's so money. I don't know how money it is. A little bit of file work, and I think this is going to fit great. All right, I've got a coat of weld through primer on there. That's drying. We are going to go ahead and fit this piece and get it tacked in. Sorry, I'm just a little excited. This fits pretty good. 4 magnets, nice and flush all the way around. We'll weld it in, do a little hammered ollie work, finish welding this. Grind that off once this is all wrapped around on the edge here, and we'll be set to go. Let's get it tacked in. Of course, there's a breeze right there. All right, we're gonna shut the door. All right, we've got the door closed. This is all cleaned up with acetone. Should have no more problems, but we will see. Okay, a couple little tacks. Now we can get rid of the magnets. A hammer and dolly. We'll clean those welds up.